Morning, Facebook, YouTube, My Life Nation. This is Jared Moore with My Life Fitness. Today we're going to kind of discuss something that a lot of people aren't aware of. It's a book called Eat Right for Your Blood Type. Throughout my kind of history in fitness and diet consulting, I started, as I mentioned in my bio, kind of experimenting with different types of diets, looking at, what makes me, what makes you, what are the differences in this? Well, anyway, I came across this book. It's written by Peter D'Adamo, who's a PhD. He also wrote a book called Live Right for Your Blood Type, which obviously the first one is about eating, and the second one's about emotional changes, exercise changes that you can do based on your genetic makeup. A lot of people have their opinions about this as far as does blood types and gene linkage, as Peter talks about, really influence your emotional health, physical health, etc., and so forth. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give you guys kind of a brief overview of what he discusses in these in his books, as well as post a couple links about some foods to eat and some foods to avoid based on your blood type. Also, for those of you who do not know their blood type, I'm also going to post a link here. This is what I did. I went on Amazon. You can actually get a blood test kit for like $7. Basically, you prick your finger and put it in these little circles, and then after about 5 minutes, it'll tell you what your blood type is. And then this information can be utilized by you. I do this with a couple of my clients if they are aware of their blood type. With myself, I try to set my own diet up utilizing the information I have here, as well as, the exercising techniques that he mentions as far as physical exercise versus meditation, mental clarity, etc., that he believes is both related to what we put in our bodies as well as how we train them. So just going right into it, the beginning of the books kind of discusses what's called gene linkages, basically explaining why blood types can relate to stomach digestion, emotional neurotransmitters, things of that nature. I'm going to try to make this as layman as possible and not throw out a bunch of medical terminologies and things of that nature. As you know, I do have a medical background, but I try to break things down as simply as possible for, the average person to be able to pick it up very quickly. So if anything you get out of this, at least look at the lists. I print them off and keep them on my fridge. So when I'm going through my grocery list and I want to try some new things, I make sure that they are not on my to not eat list. Because again, basically the foods that he mentions that they cause problems with digestion. Basically, if you have big issues with bloating, gas, food elimination, going to the bathroom, and things of that nature. It could be because your body's not able to digest these foods properly, and so changing, the foods may really benefit you. I know everyone, especially during summertime, hates walking around bloated, and you're like, why am I bloated all the time? Well, it may be because you're eating oatmeal every morning. I actually had to eliminate it from the diet, so we'll learn to go right here. So, moving right along. We're going to start with type O's. Type O's is the most common blood type. It's the oldest. It's the hunter-gatherer. As you notice, paleo is super popular. The hunter-gatherer, nuts, berries, lean meats, etc. And the reason for that, and the reason because it's so popular, it could be correlated to the fact that most people are type O's. And they do benefit from this type of diet. So it's something to really think about. This is, again, a good book to pick up. Also, just good information to read overviews on. Type O's are very good digesting meals with fats and protein. They have higher amounts of stomach acid to digest these proteins, lower amounts of disaccharides, which basically help digest carbohydrates, so they don't do well with digesting things such as grain and simple carbs. So basically any types of whole grain foods, cereals, simple carbohydrates, white breads, regular breads, rice, things of that nature. If you're noticing when you eat these things that you're getting bloated or you're having issues with sleep patterns and things of that nature, it could be because, you know, you're eating all these grains and your body does not have the proper stomach acid and lectins and ACE, which is the suffix of words that mean to digest or break down. If you buy a digestive enzyme, they have a lot of ACEs in there, which could actually help you here too. So if you don't want to change the foods, think about getting a digestive enzyme. They also have type O stimuli have an increased stress response. They produce a significant amount of adrenaline, fight or flight, as some people call it. Basically, these people are easily angered. These people tend to have more explosive responses. Also, when they're tired or sick or things of that nature, they are the most prone to destructive behaviors. So these are the thrill seekers, people that gamble, that tend to look for things when they're bored that aren't necessarily beneficial to them. So like myself, for example, I am a type O. I bored eat a lot. It's probably one of my biggest problems. If I'm sitting around and I'm bored, I just start eating, or I start, looking at other ways to entertain myself. He recommends the best thing to do is just physical exercise. So if you're sitting around bored, get up and go do something. Stay out of your kitchen. These are things that you're more prone to as a type O. They do really well with lean, organic meats, veggies, and fruits. Recommended to work out 3 to 4 times a day of brisk exercise that taxes not only the cardiovascular system but the muscular system. So this would be weight training and jogging, etc., and so forth. Don't need a lot of meditation exercises. These people are more do well with physical exhaustion. They don't produce a lot of cortisol, as we'll talk about with some of the other blood types. As I mentioned, O's tend to get a little more bored easily. And again, the biggest thing about them is to go exhaust yourself, go train, go stay out of boredom. Because again, these levels of depression, sleep habits, being tired, etc., can lead to some pretty destructive behaviors. Moving right along, type A. This arose during time of cultivation of grains and livestock. So basically, these are all mutations over time. So like everybody started off as a type O, and then as our diets change significantly, or climates change, and et cetera, and so forth, mutations in the body began to arise. So this arose during times of agriculture. So type A's tend to do much better with carbohydrates. They have low levels of stomach acid, which becomes a problem when digesting proteins or fats. They have high levels of disaccharide digestive enzymes, which again make better carbohydrate digestion. So these people tend to do really well with vegetarian type diets, excessive greens, excessive carbohydrates. Of course, you got to watch your calories when you're doing this because you don't want to gain a bunch of weight, but you have the more of the digestive enzymes naturally to break these carbohydrates down. And so you want to avoid the fattier meats and go more towards your quinoas and your rices and your grains, oatmeal, etc., and so forth, Ezekiel breads. These are things that you can lose weight on because your body utilizes it better. Something also to mention that I didn't say, the biggest thing that I kind of came across during this was I was getting, you guys have probably heard of the 5-Hour Energy shot commercial. It's like that 2:30 feeling, eliminate that. Well, I used to get this like 10:30 feeling, as I used to call it. Basically, I woke up at like 7 o'clock, or if I'm going to do cardio a little earlier. And what happened with that is I would begin to get tired around like 10:30 after my first meal, and then throughout the day I would notice I just would get that 2:30 feeling. I mean, every couple hours I was just getting this like feeling of fatigue, and I'm just like, why? I was like, I'm eating, I was like, I've been sleeping well, whatever else. Well, anyway, me being a type O, I pulled away from the processed whey, so I stopped doing protein shakes, and then I also pulled away from oatmeal. And that feeling went away completely. I was not fatigued. energy throughout the entire day. I mean, it just made everything better. And so I'm a firm believer of this. So I just want to kind of point that out. It's worth making a couple changes in your own life, no matter if you're dieting or not. Just things that when you go out, you can avoid so that you feel better. I mean, that's what everything's about. It's just feeling better, feeling healthier, being the best you can be. And that's what our entire company is about. So type A's, as I mentioned, they do really well with fresh organic veggies, fruits, etc. Carbohydrates tend to go well for them. However, they do have an elevated cortisol production, and they tend to get it in waves. And so the highest levels of cortisol for these people tend to be around 6 to 8 a.m., according to Dr. Diadamo. And good sleep is extremely important. Getting that 8 hours in. Also, eating routine meals, not skipping breakfast is extremely important. But they don't do well with intense physical exercise, things that like overtraining. You don't ever, type A does not want to go in and just be in the gym for hours at a time, just pumping heavy weight. It will increase cortisol levels even further, which with their natural cortisol production is just going to do muscle wasting all day long. And so they tend to do better with things like yoga, light exercises, things that aren't basically taxing the body as harshly as the type O's who do really well with that. So because of the elevated cortisol production, it's difficult for these people to put on muscle. So you really need to focus on getting those carbs in and staying away from the fattier meats and the proteins. Type B's. This one's super interesting. So if people that are type B's in the fitness industry, you might want to figure this out. And I'll get into why in a second. This initial mutation happened during a lot of climate changes when people were traveling around, basically mostly prominent in Japan, Mongolia, China, and India, places where a lot of walking was involved, a lot of climate changes happened. And due to this, they had to be kind of interchangeable. So this is the most malleable of all the blood types. Basically, these people can do a little bit of everything. However, they want to really avoid a lot of things together. So even though they balance, this is what he mentions, which is very interesting. Even though they can't eat the proteins, they can't eat the fats, and they can't eat the carbs, he mentions not to have them together. So that's very interesting. So if you think about your meals, you want to have your proteins and your fats together, but maybe not throw your veggies in, and definitely not your starchy carbohydrates. So he's saying, if meal one is chicken and a tablespoon of olive oil, meal two would just be a sweet potato. He says don't put these two things together because it causes an imbalance in digestive function. Even though your body can do both, it tends to not like to do them at the same time. So type B's are all about balance. Foods that tend to cause the biggest weight gain: corn, wheat, buckwheat, lentils, tomatoes, peanuts, and sesame seeds. Weight loss, you're going to look more towards green vegetables, eggs, lean meats, other than chicken and low-fat dairy. Chicken has an enzyme that attacks the type B blood type. So this is what I was mentioned by the people in the fitness industry, because chicken is a staple. Basically, type B's should not eat chicken. It actually causes immune responses and immune disorders in type B's. So if you're excessively eating chicken and you're wondering why you're feeling sluggish, or you're constantly getting sick, or you're feeling bloated, or you're just getting a not so good feeling, it could be because you're a type B and you're eating chicken. And there's a lectin in there, is what it's called, that basically attacks the immune system of the type B. And again, he talks about, this is not all pure science. It does involve what's called gene linkage, which is something that scientists have not fully understood. But again, think about yourself. If you know you're a type B and you're eating chicken all the time and you just feel like crap, or you're not feeling at your best, why not eliminate it? See what happens. That's like I said, what I did. When I pulled that oatmeal, it was like night and day. I mean, I as much as I love oatmeal, I tend to rarely eat it. I know in a couple of my other videos you saw I got some like fruity aromas and choice. I like trying foods. I mean, I'm a foodie, but tend to, when it gets into show prep time and it gets into like super serious diet time, I pull that stuff right away because I need all the energy I can get, especially mental clarity and focus. So again, this is just to benefit you. If you don't believe in it, so be it. If you want to try it and you're getting a wonderful response from it, please post some comments. I'm super interested to hear more people on this. Again, I have done it with some of my clients and myself. Very positive responses. Type Bs also are able to clear nitric oxide from the body much faster than any of the other blood types. Basically what that means is they can recover from stress quicker. So if you're type B, tend to require a lot less meditation type techniques when it comes to physical exercise, things of that nature. They tend to, again, if they're stressed out, they tend to be able to let it go like that. And when it comes to physical exercise, they believe that group activities for type Bs tend to be the best. Sports, but nothing too crazy intense. Something such as like tennis, martial arts, cycling, hiking, and golf is what his recommendations are. And last but not least, type AB. This is the rarest of all the blood types. It happens in about 5% of the population. They have low stomach acids, which basically means that it's very difficult to, as in other words, to digest the fattier meats, and it tends to get stored as fats. As well as as I hadn't mentioned yet, the low stomach acid means that you can't digest foods as quickly. So you're sitting, if you have a large meal, your body takes a long time to digest that. And so it is a recommendation that they eat more frequent small meals, so that the body can readily digest the foods. Because again, if it's sitting in the stomach for a long period of time, it's going to get shoved out the fat. We want to, basically, the little tangent, the three things you want to think about when you're talking about dieting or food consumption. We have ingestion, absorption, and elimination. Okay, those are the three processes that we really want to make sure are happening. So, if we're ingesting the proper amount of calories, we're making sure our body can absorb them. If you're eating these giant meals as a type AB or any other ones with low stomach acid, you're not absorbing all these nutrients. And also, if you're not regularly going to the restroom, especially if you're on a bulk and you're eating, there's a problem. Your body is not eliminating, the excess, and which means it's probably storing the excess. And chances are it's probably not going to be muscle. I mean, when you're putting on significant size, you should still be going to the bathroom. Ingestion, absorption, elimination. Think about that. If there's something being mixed up in there and doesn't feel right, something is messed up, and we need to probably change the foods. So simplicity is always the answer. Don't overcomplicate things. This is some unique stuff that you can change. But again, I'm gonna give you the list. I mean, it's just reading over a list. I'm not gonna have you read the whole book unless you want to. This is just kind of the brief overview. So don't overcomplicate. Don't stress out. Life's good. And, and we're always here to help too. If some things are just like, oh my God, I can't figure this out, then contact me. Contact My Life. We're absolutely able to help. Just try us out for a month. I mean, usually people stay much longer than that because they get super excited about all the knowledge you're getting. But, we're here for you. All right, so type A's. AB, excuse me. 5% of the population, lower stomach acid, as mentioned. Focus on foods such as tofu, seafood, green veggies, and dairy to lose weight. Want to avoid all smoked and cured meats. Fish is highly beneficial to this blood type. Also cultured dairy, things like yogurt and kefir. If you've never had kefir, it's actually pretty good. It's like a milk probiotic. Very popular in Europe, Asian cultures. Vlad is a huge fan of it. And so type O's tend to have, or just like the type O's, they tend to have a elevated adrenaline response. But they also have the type B's ability to clear nitric oxide. So they can get riled up very quickly, but they tend to eliminate the stress pretty easily. However, they are known to internalize their emotions. And so you got to watch out, because if you don't release this stress and you allow it to build and build and build, it can cause a lot of emotional problems for you. And again, if your body is not working efficiently because of emotional stress, cortisol levels, improper diet, nutrition, you are not going to be at your best, and you're potentially going to get sick. A lot of the book talks about it. I'm not going super into this, just how to avoid illness, especially long-term illness like cancer and diabetes and things like that. It goes really into that and why these things are important. So I'm not touching on that a super high amount, but basically when I say that, emotional stress, things like that nature, with too much emotional stress, you can make yourself sick. In my healthcare career, it was even taught to us in our studies that, if somebody's telling you they're going to die, you need to be prepared. Something bad's going to happen because they've given up. You don't understand how much, as with anything, your mind controls all these things. You got to visualize it. That's also something that type A's need to do, that he recommends, is visualizing your goals. If you can see it, you can achieve it. If you can't see it, you ain't going to achieve it. Little side note, they listening to the radio one day and doing some reading, and basically Forbes looked at the richest people or the most wealthy people in the world and tried to see what they all did the same. Two of the things that I really pulled from that was, one, they all woke up before 5 a.m. And two, all of them spent at least 10 minutes of meditation in front of a mirror, telling themselves what their goals were and what they plan to achieve. So think about that. When you walk in yourself, a lot of people walk by the mirror, especially my competitors, and they're always looking at themselves and all these things. But take a second, just stare at yourself right in your face and tell yourself what you're going to be. I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to lose that weight. I'm going to achieve this job. I'm going to do whatever. If you constantly keep telling yourself like that, you visualize it. You change your psyche. And it's just like portraying confidence on your first date or anything else like that. If you're going into a first date or an interview and you look like you're scared out of your mind or you don't believe you can do it, but you're telling somebody you can, they're not going to believe you. You can sense it, that aura around them. So when you convince yourself, I'm going to win, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be the best, I will achieve that, and you put the proper stuff in place, there's no reason you won't achieve it. You can do anything you want. And I'm a sole believer of that. I've been very blessed. I've taken tons of risks in my life. I've owned a couple businesses and I've left them to continue this passion of mine. I left my firefighter job to go back to school, full benefits, making really decent money. And I believed I could be better. I believed I could be more. And so without second guessing, I gave it a go, and God has blessed me for that. So think about that. The mind controls a lot of these things. So these are all these videos are just here to help you, but always remember that believe it to achieve it. That's the biggest thing I can tell you. So again, type A Bs, visualization is extremely important. They believe he mentions doing a 3 to 4 day aerobic activities, as well as about 2 to 3 days of meditation. So they need a balance as well. And that will be most beneficial to them for alleviating stress and promoting mental and physical wellness. As mentioned before, I'm going to post a bunch of links about the blood types, but that's a general overview of the books. It goes a lot more into detail. If you look at the Eat Right for Your Blood Type one, it's a nice sized book. You can get it on Amazon for like $5, or go down to Barnes & Noble. It's probably about $10 there. Knowledge is power. Think about these things. You could go in and bust your hump at anything all day long, but if you spend a little bit of time like outside of the gym doing the research, watching my videos here and getting that knowledge, and making little changes, little tweaks here, again, always trying to keep it simple and not stressing, you again can achieve anything. I want you to be the best you can be. I want to be the best I can be. If there's anything you guys want to see, please let me know. Also, finally got the YouTube channel up for posting all the videos. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm going to try to post videos every week, And I'm doing this for you guys. I'm so thankful to be able to push my knowledge out and help people in any way I can. So I really hope this so people can take this and change their life, change how they feel every day. And I want to hear about it. So thanks again for checking me out. Jared Moore, My Life Fitness. You guys are awesome, and have a great rest of your week.